When you ask folks to pick their favourite SmackDown game of all time, chances are they'll say Here Comes the Pain. Released in late 2003 for PlayStation 2, Here Comes the Pain introduced a lot of key elements to the SmackDown franchise while also improving the fast and fun gameplay found in the previous game, SmackDown Shut Your Mouth. Almost 2 decades have passed since the release of Here Comes the Pain, yet many still call it one of the all-time greats along with No Mercy on N64. So today we're going to take a look at the game and try to figure out why it's held in such high regard. A follow-up to SmackDown Shut Your Mouth was announced on April 2nd, 2003, and IGN confirmed the name Here Comes the Pain 20 days later by badgering staff at THQ. So Yukes and THQ were moving away from using The Rock's catchphrases for video game taglines. A few months after the name was announced, at a presentation held in Europe, THQ talked about what's new in Here Comes the Pain, and the list was very impressive. Highlights included a new grapple system that expanded players' movesets, weight detection, differentiated wrestler attributes, a new submission system with location-specific damage, an overhaul in graphics and animation, new match types, a new season mode that took feedback from Shut Your Mouth into consideration, an updated roster that also included WWE Legends for the first time ever. So as you can see, there was a lot to get excited about. Personally, I love SmackDown Shut Your Mouth, and I always felt that the season mode in that game offered a ton of replay value. At the time, it was crazy that so much content was stuffed into one wrestling game, so hearing about all these new additions and Here Comes the Pain was very exciting indeed. As always, let's take a look at the basic controls first. This will show you what was new in terms of overall gameplay. X is your strike button, hold the direction in for a more powerful strike. Triangle's your run button, while square's a general action button. You can press square while running to get behind your opponent if facing forward, or jump over your opponent if you're already behind them. The big update though comes with grapple moves. You now have 4 different lockup states at your disposal, and this opens the game up completely to a wide range of new moves for each wrestler. Circle and right performs quick grapple moves. Circle and down performs submission grapple moves. Circle and up will let your wrestler perform power grapples. And finally, circle and left let you perform signature grapples. Signature grapples are supposed to be just that, specific moves that your wrestler performs in real life. Now, there are some liberties taken here, but there's also a ton of character specific animations that's been added in too, and that really helps each wrestler feel unique. For example, Triple H's DDT looks different from a standard DDT. There's no way to perform front moves without grappling first. You can, however, perform quick moves from behind or when running at your opponent. The countering system has also been overhauled. You no longer just mash a single button in hopes of reversing moves. This time you have 2 counter buttons, one for strikes, L2, and one for grapples, R2. This is great by the way, especially in 2-player mode. At first it sounded like Yukes complicated things, but they didn't. They made countering more fun, but more on that in a moment. If you look up at the top here, you can see the special meter filling up as you perform moves. You can also see the new limb damage meter that lets you know how much damage you and your opponent's taken and where that damage has been taken. So if you get them in the red, it might be a good idea to try a submission move. Submission moves now have a new tug of war system added. Put it all together and you've got a real feeling of total freedom as you run around the ring doing damage in a variety of different ways. In the ring, Here Comes the Pain's gotten a pretty significant speed boost, so you've got fast arcade action mixed with authentic new moves, and it does play absolutely brilliantly. There's been a lot of time taken to give characters unique specific moves, and even initial grapple animations really do make your character feel different. And along with this, each wrestler has their own stats. This means characters have both strengths and weaknesses, and it's up to you to exploit those weaknesses. In terms of the roster, 25 playable characters are available that were not in the previous game, including Goldberg, Batista, Scott Steiner, Ultimo Dragon, and John Cena. Legends are unlockable, including the Road Warriors, the Iron Sheik, Hillbilly Jim, and Roddy Piper. And you've also got a lot of favourites returning, including The Rock, Steve Austin, Shawn Michaels, and The Undertaker. A lot of care's been taken too when updating superstars from the previous game, with The Rock being one of the standouts. In Here Comes the Pain, you'll play as Hollywood Rock, and his move animations have been updated to feel like a complete different wrestler in comparison to Shut Your Mouth. Speaking of Hollywood, Hulk Hogan was removed from the game. 2 versions of the Hulkster were originally planned, though the select screen pictures are still found on the disc. The Ultimate Warrior was also going to be an unlockable legend, but he too got removed due to a legal dispute. There's quite a few more superstars who got taken out of the game, so check out the Cutting Room Floor website to get all the details. The good news is though that their movesets were retained for Create a Wrestler. We'll check out the creation modes in a moment. It's a good roster and Here Comes the Pain though, and it comes down to personal preference really if you like this roster more than the one found in Shut Your Mouth. The incredible amount of move animations and updates to movesets found in Here Comes the Pain though makes each wrestler feel even more unique than the previous game, so do keep that in mind. Match types then. Look at this list of match types. There's a lot to do and Here Comes the Pain. Along with these matches, you can also have regular matches, battle royals, hardcore matches, Royal Rumbles, tags, tornado tags. There's so many match types that it can be difficult choosing which to play next, and that's a good thing. One of the new big match types we have though is the Elimination Chamber, and it's a lot of fun to play. Basically, moves you do outside the ring are going to have a pretty big impact on your opponent's health, but you're always at risk of getting hurt too and trying to dish out punishment. Countering in this game is easy. It's easy for both you and the CPU, so there's always a risk with every move you try to pull off. First Blood matches also make their SmackDown debut and Here Comes the Pain along with bra and panty matches. And you've also got a ton of favourites to play including Cage, Ladder, TLC and Hell in a Cell matches. Combine all these match types with fast and fun gameplay and it's pretty much perfect. You can get all serious with your friends and have a long drawn out Iron Man match, or you can go to Times Square and ride around on a helicopter. You can put on a 3-way steel cage showdown, or you can have a singles match with 2 special referees. The choices you've got here are incredible. The new grapple system just works. It's easy to remember your favourite moves and which grapple state you need to be in, so you've got the ability and freedom to set up some great spots and you can play out matches how you want them to play out. This sounds like basic stuff, I know, but sometimes we don't realise how restricted we can be with certain wrestling games. Here Comes the Pain takes the restraints off and it lets you go as crazy as you want, and once you've played one match, you instantly want to play another. Let's take a look at the creation modes. With each SmackDown game that was released during this era, there was always updates made to Create a Wrestler mode. We didn't ever go backwards really, and Here Comes the Pain is no exception. You can create more animations this year if that's your thing. Stables can be added and removed from the game. You can edit each superstar's moveset too or create a new one, and this is pretty handy if you want to see the default moves and how to pull them off. And of course, you can create your own wrestler. Like before, I downloaded a few save files so you guys can look at a few creations. Folks were making guys like Sting and the Ultimate Warrior, Scott Hall, Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan. There's also some fictional characters here like Freddy Krueger, the Grim Reaper and the Joker. So this will show you right here what was possible within the creation suite. At the time, this was awesome, and I know some of the characters don't look too great nowadays, but back then, fans were getting super creative with the options they were given. Makes you kind of appreciate how far we have come in terms of character creation within wrestling games. Alright, season mode. First things first, it's very customizable. You can select who's involved in your season, which brand they're on, you can add a bunch of created wrestlers too if you want, and remove top stars if that's your thing. It's all completely your choice. I'll start with all the defaults here, and I think I'll choose someone who's kinda trying to break into the main event scene. Let's go with Big Papa Pump Scotty Steiner. There is one question people always ask me. What are Samoa Joe's chances of beating Big Papa Pump at Sacrifice?
You got an 8 1/3 chance of winning at Sacrifice!
Eric Bischoff welcomes Mr. Steiner to Raw, and then we get brought to the main menu. The main menu gives us a few options. You can talk to other superstars like last year, but you don't need to go walking around in first person mode to find them. This is good because honestly, while first person mode was kinda unique, it also got a little tiresome after a few months into your career. You can also upgrade your character stats by winning matches, you can buy items in the shop zone, check out superstar profiles, add more wrestlers to the season, or you can add or edit stables. The level of customization again is incredible. After getting punked out by The Rock, who sang me a little song, and after watching the Hurricane show his displeasure at The Rock's recent change in attitude, I decided to have a meeting with Eric Bischoff. The big bad booty daddy wants a world title shot, but I'm happy to build my way up and earn the opportunity. So I'll start with the Hardcore Championship. I make RVD tap out to the recliner, and Scott's career starts off well with a hardcore title victory on night 1. The next week, Vince McMahon shows up to throw his weight around, and he says it's up to him if I main event Mania next year, but I'm going to prove myself to both Eric and Vince. A hard-fought hardcore match on Raw will hopefully get the big bad booty daddy a match at the next pay-per-view, Backlash. But unfortunately, the card was too stacked and there was no space for the genetic freak. Jerry Lawler, meanwhile, thinks it would be a good idea for Scott to challenge for the tag team titles. No thank you. Scott wants the world belt and Scott's only interested in singles competition. Scotty bumps into Goldberg backstage, and again, I have the option of possibly forming a tag team. I'm not interested, so I piss Goldberg off and lose some superstar points in the process. It's no big deal. I'm now thinking I should challenge for the IC belt, seeing as I'm Big Papa Pump and I'm that damn good. So Eric grants me a shot, and now Scotty Steiner's a double title holder. Only a matter of time now before I'm shining up the big one. The world belt, that is. Christian takes it bad and he wants to fight me backstage the following week. Big mistake, Christian, big mistake. You can already see how the decisions I've made have shaped this particular run on career mode. If I wasn't challenging for belts, I'd get to see other stories play out, with some of these being admittedly more involved and more layered, but I'm just having fun here and letting you guys see one of the many routes you could take. Taz wants me to participate in a UK tour. Big Papa Pump has no time for glorified house shows, so I'm going to pass on this generous offer. I would, however, like to see Booker T perform a spinneroonie, but instead he calls me a sucker and I lose more superstar points. I better be a bit more careful. After defending my IC belt against Chris Jericho, I bump into Stephanie McMahon at Judgment Day. Big Papa Pump hasn't got a match, so there must be some sort of mistake and I need to take this up with upper management. Steph won't stop talking on the phone, so I demand to speak to her and get what's rightfully mine, a shot at the world belt. Stephanie gets annoyed, she throws me into the ring with Triple H, but I don't get a shot at his belt. Fair enough, I'll beat his ass on pay-per-view and then I'll go from undesirable to undeniable, like top WWE superstar the Great Khali. I beat Triple H, I'm feeling pretty good about my upcoming world title match because man, I earned it. But Scott's night isn't over just yet. Scott totally forgot he was hardcore champion, and not only does Scott Steiner get jumped by Kane, he also loses his coveted hardcore title. Annoying, but it's okay, we're on to bigger and better things. It's best to drop the hardcore belt anyway so I can grab the big one. The world belt, that is. Raw's in Oklahoma and Jim Ross says the people here are great. Steiner's like, yeah, okay, gotta go, got a world belt I need to win. I then defend my IC belt against Booker T, and this is getting a bit ridiculous. I'm due a world title shot, damn it, and I need to talk to the boss. I just so happen to bump into Vince McMahon and I gotta approach him the right way. Should I be a nice guy and ask him how his day is, or should I straight up tell him there's someone I want to fight? Yeah, there's someone I want to fight. I've got his attention now. I can ask for a match against Triple H, or I can ask for a match against Vince himself. I'm thinking I could impress the boss inside the ring and he's gonna say, damn it pal, that Scott Steiner's one hell of an athlete, he deserves a title shot. So I challenge Vince and, oh no, he's not happy. He agrees to the match, but he makes it a 3-on-1 affair with Steiner facing Vince, Triple H and Ric Flair. Right, the tables have been turned, the numbers don't lie and they spell disaster for Scott on Monday Night Raw. But if I can win this, then that's it. Steiner's the greatest wrestler in the world and I should be the World Heavyweight Champion. Through a lot of grit, determination and sheer luck, I'm able to win the match. It's a Steiner miracle. Bad Blood's just around the corner, this is the big night, and I'm booked in another IC title defense. Booker T and Kane in a triple threat match. Even Eddie Guerrero can't believe it. To make matters worse, that Jerry Lawler guy asked me again if I want to form a tag team. No, Jerry, I don't want to form a tag team. Stick your tag team up your ass. If I don't get what I deserve, I'm going to move to SmackDown. This is getting a bit silly. Lawler must have heard me talk shit because on Raw I have to judge a bikini contest, I'm not even booked to wrestle. So I seek out Eric Bischoff the next week and I tell him I want the chance to prove myself. The absolute madman compares my superstar points to Stacy Keibler's. After all the work I've put in, I'm getting compared to Stacy. But luckily I rank higher, so yes, Eric wants to finally give me an opportunity. That opportunity is a cage match against Val Venus, so you know what? I'm putting in for a transfer next month. If Freakzilla doesn't get what's coming to him, then I'm off to SmackDown. The following week, Booker T gets another shot at my IC title. I mean, hasn't he had enough opportunities already? I decide to do the JOB because this Intercontinental belt is now worthless to me and I think freeing up some gold will bring me the opportunity I'm looking for. And would you look at that? Vengeance is in Michigan, the state of Steiner. If I don't get booked on this show, I'm not booked on this show. Instead, I've got Brock Lesnar calling me a loser while Steve Austin and Goldberg get a shot at Triple H's belt. My freaks and peaks are looking bleak and the big bad booty daddy's starting to feel underappreciated. So it's time to move over to SmackDown and try my luck on the blue brand. Eric Bischoff says I have to stay on Raw for another month and no doubt he'll want me to job out to everyone. Big Papa Pump gives satisfaction but not in the way Eric thinks, so I'll win all my matches just to prove a point. Just to rub it in, I have a meeting with Triple H and I get to take part in the infamous pose down that actually did happen on Monday Night Raw between Hunter and Steiner. A shallow and sad consolation prize, seeing as I wanted this man in the ring for a world title match. Even though Freakzilla shows that he's built to go all night long, Hunter still punks me out backstage. So I beat him in the middle of the ring in a non-title match just to let all these fans know the Big Papa Pump's your hookup and the uncrowned World Heavyweight Champion. I don't get booked at SummerSlam, instead I have a nice conversation with Rey Mysterio and we have a cup of coffee. And then JR approaches me with an interesting question. Does Big Papa Pump want to form a faction, or does he still want to work as a singles guy? Well, if I lead a group of elite superstars, I could do what Triple H did and get gold around my waist that way. So after a long hard think, Freakzilla says, yeah, this is a great idea. I then jump to SmackDown. JR asks me who I want in this faction, and my first choice is Kurt Angle. Actually, my first and only choice is Kurt Angle because I can only select one guy. This is bullshit, sir. Jerry Lawler must have sent JR to ask me again about forming a tag team, and Ross just worded it differently. I don't want to be in a tag team, I wanted to run a faction. I go backstage the following week and slap Undertaker around because that's how pissed off I am. I'm then forced to participate in tag team matches with Kurt Angle, and trust me, I didn't want to do this. Kurt's all like, we need to cause a ruckus and show him what we got. But Scotty Steiner is already thinking about going back to WCW, even though it doesn't exist anymore. This is where my season playthrough came to an end really, because I had to stop to script this video. Eventually, Lita joins up as our manager. It's still not a faction, it's a tag team with a manager. But Big Rikishi wants to join up too, and I'm like, yeah, whatever. Kurt's all excited to give this faction a name, but I'm completely checked out. Scott Steiner just wants to go home and lie on the couch for a few years. So yeah, Ministry of Darkness, that'll do. The Ministry of Darkness then took over SmackDown and they won every belt in the world. Steiner became owner of WWE and the end. Again, you've got so many options in career mode that multiple playthroughs are necessary to see everything that's on offer. If I wanted to, I could have just selected Triple H and started off as the world champion, giving me a complete different path to follow. Or I could have selected someone like The Rock who gets granted a title opportunity right at the beginning of the game. Yeah, there are set paths, and challenging for the lower belts can lead you to missing more elaborate storylines, but it's all up to you how you want your season to play out, and with a little bit of imagination too, you can make even the most basic season playthroughs a bit more fun. The game rewards you for making different choices. It wants you to play through multiple times or even play a single season mode for a few calendar years so you can see more cutscenes and more storylines. So career mode, in my opinion, is an absolute winner. The variety on offer is phenomenal, and for those of you who may have skipped this game for some strange and unforgivable reason, you're going to have a great time seeing where your story ends up. Yes, there are limitations, it's a PS2 game after all, but it's easy to ignore these limitations when the gameplay is so good. To bring it all back, here comes the pains, the complete package when it comes to the PS2 SmackDown games, and it's all to do with just how fun it is to play. You may wonder why the next game, SmackDown vs Raw, doesn't get the same love from grapple fans, and I too got a bit curious about this question. It's been years since I looked at these games after all, and I played a few quick games of SmackDown vs Raw just to draw a quick comparison, and yeah, it's different. Same control scheme more or less, but it's slower. It also has some distractions like extra meters and gimmicky mini games going on, but I'll cover all this in a future video. I can say though that it just didn't feel the same, and from what I remember, the season mode's a bit more linear too. Again, I'll dig into all this in a future video because I still think SmackDown vs Raw is a good game. It's just not Here Comes the Pain. Playing against the CPU and Here Comes the Pain's great fun. Playing against friends is even better. There's so many match options, so many wrestlers, and so many new tweaks and additions that yes, even after all these years, it still ranks up there as the best SmackDown game of this era. As mentioned before, I have a more personal connection with Shut Your Mouth, and I'll always hold that game in high regard because it made me rush out to buy a PlayStation 2. But Here Comes the Pain perfected what was already a very, very good wrestling game. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you liked about Here Comes the Pain because I know I haven't mentioned everything in this video. Thank you very much for watching as always, and please take care.